Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope you all are having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have a better tomorrow. So, we got some news to cover. First off, one thing is that RWBY has been renewed for 2 more seasons, so that means that volumes 8 and 9 have been confirmed. I'm going to give my thoughts on that, and we're going to talk some things also concerning Rooster Teeth as well in this video, which has to do with RWBY, Rooster Teeth, and Warner Media. So, there's a lot to go over here, and I'm going to give my overall opinions when we go through with this, because there are some important things that I need to bring up here. So, first things first, RWBY Volumes 8 and 9 are confirmed. So, they have been greenlit, and RWBY Volumes 8 and 9 are going to happen. So, they are confirmed, and so if anybody was wondering what was going to happen with RWBY, well, Volumes 8 and 9 are going to happen so far. So, even though Rooster Teeth is going through several problems, in which we're going to get into that in a moment, Volumes 8 and 9 are going to happen. So there's that. So that has been confirmed. We're going to get into the pros and cons of that as well. But first off, let's look at this article by Variety. So there are some things here by Variety, and they have the entire synopsis here for Volume 7. So let's go ahead and get into this article, and let's start talking about this. So, the girls of RWBY will return to Rooster Teeth for at least 2 more seasons or volumes, as the AT&T owned media company calls the anime-style series. Rooster Teeth greenlit an additional 2 volumes of RWBY, volumes 8 and 9, with more details to be released at a later date. The announcement came as Rooster Teeth released the trailer for RWBY, volume 7 on Thursday at New York Comic Con. Volume 7 premieres November 2nd, initially available on the Rooster Teeth first subscription streaming service, which starts at $5.99 monthly. Yep, the exact same one that they lied about, stating that they would never increase the prices to, and then which they did. So, that very one. With new episodes to be released on a weekly basis. And we'll skip the next part because it's just the basis of, the setting to RWBY. In the 7th installment, the girls have fought hard alongside their friends to bring the Relic of Knowledge to Atlas, the northernmost kingdom and remnant. However, the futuristic urban sprawl may hide just as much danger as the grim-infested tundra that surrounds it. Retcon there. Enemies and allies will collide as our heroes fight to stop Salem's forces, but banding together is dangerous when you don't know who you can trust. It's kind of funny they bring up the whole don't know who you can trust thing when, the funny thing is that they kind of had that conflict earlier with Ozpin. Now they know his backstory. It kind of feels like they kind of already screwed that phrase over. They kind of already threw it out there. But, that's just a personal opinion. Rooster Teeth says RWBY is a Western-style anime and boasts that it's the first such production to be distributed in Japan. Purists argue that it's not real anime because it's produced outside of Japan. In any case, the debate hasn't diminished the show's popularity among Rooster Teeth fans. It's kind of funny they bring that up in this article. I don't really see the relevance to that. Kind of weird. Anyways, separately, Austin-based Rooster Teeth last month cut 13% of its staff. Oh boy, did it. The first mass layoff in its history. No, they had one back in March. It's just that's not recorded. And named former Awesomeness TV and WB executive Jordan Levin to lead Rooster Teeth as general manager. The changes come after WarnerMedia moved Rooster Teeth under its Elation division. Subsequently, AT&T moved WarnerMedia under the aegis of WarnerMedia Entertainment. Now, we have some important things to bring up here because, bringing up all this. All right, we're going to go into a lot here. So, alongside the RWBY stuff, like I said, we're going to get into that in a moment. We're going to talk about the pros and cons to volumes 8 and 9 being established. But the thing is that when it comes down to it, Rooster Teeth has been going through huge hits lately. They've had layoffs. There was layoffs back in March that weren't even recorded. There were the recent layoffs that happened. That was 13% of the staff. 50 people were cut. That is a big cut for them. That is not a good thing. That is never a good thing in the case. And now, when it comes to Warner Media, okay, so we have to talk about Warner Media and AT&T because previously in a video, I talked about Warner Media and how they're actually bringing down the hatchet and they're just cutting heads. And this is because they are in debt. And, well, here's a funny thing. So, let's look at this. So, the Hollywood Reporter had a very interesting article that came out a few days. Now, we're not going to go over the entire article because we really need to get into the meat of this article because it's a really big thing that has to do with AT&T, which is the owner of WarnerMedia, which owns RWBY, which owns Rooster Teeth. So all this, as you can tell, kind of bundles in together here. So what's important about this is that this article goes into state about the debt of the giant media empire, the big corporate bosses here, that there's a lot of debt that's been going on. Of course, many of you probably already know of Disney's debt. They have a lot of debt going on here. And WarnerMedia is going to surprise you because if you thought Disney had it real bad in debt, well, you were mistaken. Because while Disney's had its own debt issues that it's still trying to even work out, yeah, AT&T has some extremely awful issues they need to work out. By the end of the year, mind you. Alright? Even when money is easy to borrow, shareholders are nervous. As a result, AT&T has worked to bring its debt down from a high of $180 billion earlier this year. Oh, youch. A number of analysts, Craig Moffett, I think I said that wrong, called terrifying at the time to $170 billion. As reported in its latest quarterly filing, the company's CEO, Randall Stephenson, has said he wants to reduce that debt to $150 billion by the end of the year and appears on track to do so, according to the July 24th investor update. Now, important thing to note, they're going to try to shave off $20 billion more. That's how much they have to try to shave off by the end of the year. This means more than likely there's going to be more layoffs. To be able to shave that money, they're probably going to have to cut more heads. And to do that, this means that RWBY, Elation, Crunchyroll, Rooster Teeth, and many others are probably going to suffer more layoffs. So if you thought it was already bad enough with a 13% loss and then the one that wasn't even recorded back in March, this probably is not the end. This means that there's going to be more cuts by the end of this year. This is how bad this is getting. And when you think about it, right now, the big thing is that, I've heard things from insiders of how Cartoon Network may be where Elation and Rooster Teeth are going to roll in so they can have their animated series go there. Because if you notice, they're hiring more people for live action Rooster Teeth shows because animation is expensive to make. Now, there's one thing that's very important to look at here, and if you think about it, with them hiring more staff for live action rather than they are animation, that means that animation, because it costs a lot to make, this probably means that they're going to not have as much to do with animation in the future. And that's not looking good for Rooster Teeth, considering that they had so many animated shows. Now, RWBY's safe. That's confirmed. I wouldn't put my money on Genlock. I mean, that's a speculation. But, Genlock is one of the biggest issues that Rooster Teeth had, because it lost them millions. Millions. Okay? Considering that it lost them millions, they are hurting horribly. That is exactly why they increased the price of their membership, because they have to try to find ways to recoup that money that they lost. And not only that, but with AT&T and Warner Media having HBO Max, some of that money is also going to go into that streaming service because they're preparing for the streaming war. That is another big important thing to think about here. Plus, you know how companies are. They got to have that money, to make them go. So, of course, AT&T is going to have Rooster Teeth give them some of that money so they can have their streaming service and try to help them with the debt issue, of course. So, let's keep going. To bring its debt down, AT&T has sold its stakes in Hulu and Hudson Yards, and reportedly has explored unloading DirecTV, though WarnerMedia chief John Stankey has denied plans for a sale. So, what this tells you right here is that AT&T is trying to keep anything they can rather than having to let things go so they can still make money off of those services. And instead, they plan to cut jobs. So they plan to create layoffs so they can still keep more money as well as have more money from other services coming in. The company is committed to driving our net debt to EBITDA ratio to about 2.5 times by year end, and we are right on track to achieving that, Stevenson said in April. You see, so that means that they have to still cut more down on their debt. So as long as they can hit their goal, which is 150 billion, they still have to cut that 20 billion more. So that means that there's more dead weight they're going to have to cut off, which doesn't look good for Crunchyroll or Rooster Teeth. And seeing that Rooster Teeth's already been hit pretty hard this year, another hit may be coming in, and that's not looking too good. And the debt, I mean, this is huge for AT&T, and not only that, but AT&T wants results for reasons. And when it comes down to it, you've seen a lot of people leave Rooster Teeth because they know it's a sinking ship. And the thing is, I've said it multiple times, I'm not saying it to be negative, I'm not saying it to be terrible, I'm being honest. That companies, what they usually do is they take the smaller companies that they own and they will roll them into something else, into another company, if they don't perform to their liking. And here's the thing, this is kind of what we're seeing here. If you think about it, Rooster Teeth, here's the sad thing. The history of Rooster Teeth was, if you think about it, they delivered content before YouTube. They delivered it back in 2003. And Rooster Teeth, they were their own independent thing at one time. They built it up from scratch, and, it went from nothing to a company. I mean, when they sold out, though, that was the problem. When they sold it to Full Screen, which, there was also Machinima as well, that is no longer available. It's gone now, too. Rooster Teeth lost its rights as an independent company. They were then owned by corporate, and therefore that's why you start seeing all these big corporate changes. That's why even the creators themselves of Rooster Teeth, they are either A, leaving the company, or they are getting demoted. Of course, they try to make a spin on, oh, we're doing better things. No, they're not. That's a lie. They are just trying to spin it to make it look like it's good when it's really not. Now corporate owns Rooster Teeth. And the thing is, you reap what you sow, and Rooster Teeth, they made some very bad mistakes. They really have. And you would think that they would have learned from the mistakes, but they didn't, and look at where it got them. You reap what you sow, and I think it's sad in the degree of original content creators losing what they built up. But it's also not sad because they did this to themselves. They ignored the fans, they attacked the fans, they pushed out any form of criticism, and they did some things like with the animators, treated them awful, and had them basically work in a sweatshop. It's awful stuff. And Rooster Teeth has lost control of their company at this point. And these layoffs have been very serious as well. You have all the issues that came out in the year 2019, which has definitely not been Rooster Teeth's year. And you go from that, and you also look at all of these layoffs, because, these layoffs add to it, Because you think back at the 13% of what they lost, that really hurt them. That was a big hit to them. It's not a good thing for their company. And, with AT&T, they want results now. And if they don't get those results, well, things aren't going to go so well because, the previous CEO was just willing to throw out money at projects. Look at High Guardian Spice, where is it? I mean, they had test screenings for it, but that's not good. Whenever a show that they're making doesn't come out and they hold it, that's a moment to make you worry at that point what's going to happen with that company. It's not just the show, because, they could take the show and put it on a platform, which is probably what they're going to do, is put it on HBO Max. But you look at Rooster Teeth, right? Rooster Teeth may not be a company that much longer. Now, with RWBY, what could happen is WarnerMedia, they'll have the assets to it. This is what companies do. The larger companies will sometimes just absorb the smaller companies, take their assets, and then use the assets for later if they choose to. And that's the big thing you have to think about here. When you think about what could happen to RWBY, now RWBY's going to be safe for another 2 seasons. That's good to hear for RWBY fans, but at the same time, what's going to happen, right? They could leave it to someone else to continue, or they may reboot it, under another company, So who knows? But in terms of worrying about RWBY, now let me bring this up because there's a lot I'm going to have to say here. This is a lot of stuff. In terms of RWBY, Volumes 8 and 9 have been greenlit. Now, for RWBY fans, yeah, that sounds like a good thing, right? But at the same time, That's also a problem. Now let me explain what I mean by this is a problem. The animators, remember, they've been abused for years. This is not just something that had just come up recently. This had been going on for a while. Crunch time has been terrible with Rooster Teeth. They've had so many issues that they have not learned to fix. Also, let me remind you of something. Just because Grey Haddock is gone, it does not mean that the abuse has stopped. Because let me tell you something. Those people that treated the animators badly, some of them are still there. I just want to remind you of that. Yeah, they're still there. And I'm just going to say this right now. I've said it one time before, and I hope I don't have to say it again. Let the animators have their freedom. Let them have their freedom to work. Okay? Said it once. I'm saying it again. Because this is serious. And those animators, I guarantee you, with 2 volumes back to back, having to work, that is going to be even worse than it was because they're going to be pushing back to back volumes. That is not good. Also, this probably means that the next volume's going to be rushed in its writing, which is another worrisome thing to think about because we certainly don't need another Volume 5 on our hands. Volume 5 had very bad and rushed writing. Not only that, the animation was just terrible, and it was awful. Volume 5 was just awful. It was a mess of a volume, and this doesn't need to happen again. It really doesn't. And I fear for this, because if they're going to push 2 back-to-back volumes being worked on, this makes me fear that Volume 8 is going to be a volume to where the writing's going to be rushed as well as the animations. This is why I worry about this stuff, because I fear that it's just going to be another history repeat of another Volume 5 situation, and I hope that doesn't happen. I want RWBY to improve. I want the best for RWBY. I do. But if they're going to just push things out there and try to rush it, then it's not going to improve. And seeing the issues that's going on with Rooster Teeth, seeing how they've already had to cut so much of their workforce this year, and if more gets cut off, that's less people to work with, which means it's going to be that much harder to get all the work done. And that's not good. This is why I'm saying I hope there's not a history repeat. I hope the animators can work at their own pace. And hopefully the writing can improve and become great again, because the future of Rooster Teeth isn't looking too good. And we certainly don't need another Volume 5 situation for RWBY all over again, because I hope the best for RWBY, and I want to see RWBY improve and become better. But anyways, I'll be back again on Tuesday with a brand new video. Let me know what you think about this whole entire situation down below, and share the video. Let's spread the word and try to get it out there. It's greatly appreciated, and it greatly helps out the channel. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did enjoy the video with a like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and follow me on Discord. Link is in the description down below. But anyways, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful and fantastic day today, and remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow could always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you, and have yourselves a good one out there, everybody.